Rebuilding trust between France and Italy and unlocking the sensitive issue of migration. This is the aim of Emmanuel Macron's visit to Rome Wednesday evening. The French President and Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte agreed on an automatic mechanism for the distribution of migrants. All EU countries should take a share of migrants, thus avoiding standoff at sea on humanitarian vessels.
With regard to rescue at sea, as you said, I am convinced that we can agree on an automatic European mechanism for sharing the reception of migrants, coordinated by the European Commission, which will guarantee for Italy or Malta, before the arrival of the vessels, that the people who arrive will be taken by other European countries, and with a much more supportive organization.
In recent months, there have been tensions between Paris and Rome. For instance, the attacks of a five-star movement against France, which according to Luigi Di Maio would impoverish Africa with a CFA franc. Strengthening links between parties has become necessary after Salvini abandoned the Premier's first coalition government.
It's essential for Europe to turn a page in the direction of a structural management and no longer an emergency management of the migrant flows. Italy has always asked for this with the utmost consistency. We must remove propaganda from the migration issue, a propaganda that is also anti-European. We must continue to offer a rigorous response because Italy doesn't want to lower its guard against illegal trafficking, against trafficking of human lives.
You know, it's funny. The only propaganda that is attributed to the manufactured issues of migration is the bullshit claims of human trafficking, which is supposedly at the heart of the problem. Done ordinarily to deviate attention away from the elephant in the room, the so-called rescue boats, the rescue missions and so on, the Soros and co-funded communist wankers who have the gall to label themselves humanitarian workers, who are simply following out maritime law with their never-ending but very conveniently timed and conveniently placed, coincidental maybe, rescue missions, so-called rescue missions. You know, using rescue missions as their excuse and justification for boats arriving with the Gambian young team aboard should in reality only work once or twice, as when these people return every second week with another boatload, eventually the rescue mission mantra should become increasingly difficult to accept. It should start to resonate with the EU bureaucrats and co that these NGOs are at the very least taking the fucking piss out of maritime law and the claims of rescuing. And at worst, they themselves are trafficking the very same people they've insisted for all this time they're merely rescuing. But yet, silence as per usual. Unless it's to come out with some fucking solution, which is always worse than the solution previously, but always an additional or an adaptation to the previous solution. I mean, it really is bullshit, this whole narrative. Predictable, conveniently timed, etc, etc. It's just all going according to plan. But as I said, the silence really does speak volumes. As the NGOs continue to transport boat after boat of sub-Saharan African men, supposed to be a refugee crisis, or at the very least that's what it was long ago known as. Nonetheless, so the African men who claim to be searching for a better life, and this never-ending sympathy routine the media put on when they talk about the poor Africans that are seeking a better life, doesn't justify anything. That justification shouldn't mean a damn thing to anybody with half a brain. It's true. Jumping on a boat with the intention of rocking up on another continent, no less, is illegal. And trying to excuse their actions with the claim of searching for a better life should not then see them treated as refugees from that day forward, but instead should see them put back on a boat, the same boat, preferably, on which they came on, and told to get the fuck back to where they came from. And if they intend to try their luck again, they will swiftly get their arse booted into a jail. You know, interception is defined as obstructing something or someone so as to prevent them from reaching their destination. But yet, the term is used to describe the process we've been subjected to for years now. Every time some Kenyans with life jackets are dumped via NGOs, the saga is often referred to as interception, or intercepting economic migrants headed for Europe. But when said interception turns into transporting, the piss-poor narrative falls apart. You know, rescue is defined as saving someone or something from a dangerous situation. And since they're hell-bent on making up stories about non-existent people smugglers, it would go without saying that any so-called rescue missions that result in the outcome we've come to know and love in recent years theoretically would put money in the smugglers' pockets, keeping them in a job, and of course would then put confidence in others to part with their cash to repeat the journey. After all, if these imaginary people smugglers were in fact a real criminal organisation, it's really the easiest money-making scheme I can think of, booting a fucking boat out into the water and waiting for confirmation that they've been picked up by the nearest rescue mission. Jesus, man. So the new PM of Italy was quoted as saying, "I am convinced that an automatic European mechanism is needed for the reception of immigrants. Not refugees, not even asylum seekers who could potentially have a viable claim. No. Just immigrants. The safe, the regular, the orderly migration that they've been talking about for the best part of 2 to 3 years. You know, the Migrant Compact, where they solemnly swore to everybody back in the day that it was not about migration or enforcing migration. Oh, no. That was just myths peddled by the so-called far right. They said he had received French backing for a system to handle the redistribution of migrants. Again, not asylum seekers with potential viable claims, not refugees, no, migrants. Safe, regular, orderly migration. Meaning Italy could rely on the entire 28 nation bloc to accept automatically a share of all new arrivals as soon as they were picked up by NGOs under the guise of rescue missions. Macron, speaking through an interpreter, said the EU countries that refused to take part in the scheme should be seriously penalised. They did not provide further details, saying only that the issue would soon be discussed by EU interior ministers, and we all know that this is what is going to end up becoming fundamental priority one, and it's becoming rather predictable at this point. It's just a question of when. The issue of immigration must no longer fuel anti-European propaganda. The only anti-European propaganda that I'm seeing, apart from the so-called rescue routine, is the fact that they still claim that every country within the EU is independent, but yet they're now planning to penalise countries that don't take in their fair share of fucking Kenyans, that have chanced their arm, jumping on a boat, heading to Europe, knowing full well that an NGO will be on hand to pick them up in no time. And of course now they've all been incentivised a little bit more than previously because Macron and the new Italian Prime Minister have decided to hit the airwaves and tell the fucking world that they're open for business. That sends a great message to the so-called smugglers that are sitting on the Libyan coastline waiting for the next rescue departure. See another step after this. So in effect, the objective, the agenda has been complete. They have justified process after process and solution after solution, stage after stage, all leading up to the finale, which will be the facilitation of a safe corridor for safe, regular and orderly migration of African men. A relentless, never-ending stream, boat after boat after boat. And no country will opt out, because they'll be penalised. It remains to be seen yet just how hard they intend to implement these rules if they come into effect, or if this is just in the pipeline for a later date. But we all know it's coming.